Hi everyone, it's Jeanette here, the Enthusiastic Gardener, and I have an extra video for you this week, and it's a very special video and I'm delighted to be able to share it with you. Thank you for your wonderful comments about Woodland Courtyard and how much you liked it, so I'm delighted about that. But you may know one of the main reasons why I added all these extra baskets into Woodland Courtyard was because I wanted to repot all the beautiful ferns that my friend Mark Border sent to me, and so that was the main reason why all these baskets and everything came into Woodland Courtyard and made it so delightful. But I was talking to Mark and I said to him, will you share some information about ferns for everyone, because you are truly the expert. And he's very kindly agreed to do that here. So let me just tell you a little bit of information about Mark. And he started gardening when he was a boy. His parents were both heavily into gardening, and he said that his interest in ferns came about because he was so mad about dinosaurs as a young boy. And he thought, well, the closest thing I can get to dinosaurs is to grow some dinosaur food, and that's where the fern passion started. So he went with his parents to the famous Elizabeth Strangeman's nursery, very famous lady, and specialising in hellebores and alpines and also ferns. She gave him his first ferns and started it all off his collection. So he since joined the British Pteridological Society. He's been a member for 40 years and he writes some of their newsletters. You can find them on their website. I'll put the details of the website on the screen here. And he strongly encourages anyone who's interested to join. He says you get, as well as meeting like-minded people, you get journals every year. You get, I think it was 25 spores every year, where you can start your collection and start growing. And also, if you go to the meetings, there's a lot of fern swapping going on. Mark lives in a place called Bexhill-on-Sea, which is near Hastings. It's on the southeast coast of England. He's been there since 1966. Mark says if you have any questions at all, because he is the expert, please put them in the comments below. I won't be able to answer them, but I'll be reading them with interest too. He will jump in and he will answer questions for you. He's also left his email address in the video, and also I'll put that in the description below. He finally says if anyone is in the area of Bexhill-on-Sea, which is near Hastings, East Sussex, southeast of England on the coast, please, he'll be happy to see you. If you want to pop round, he'll give you a tour and you can see his fern collection in person. You cannot get a better invitation than that. So without further ado, here's my friend Mark Border.
Hello, I'm Mark Border. Jeanette suggested it might be interesting to do a short piece for one of her wonderful weekly videos. She suggested perhaps something ferny, so I thought maybe a look in my greenhouse might interest some of you. First, a quick apology. As you'll shortly see, my greenhouse currently has quite a few hanging baskets waiting to go out from the summer. These are quite heavy and quite large, and I keep hitting my head on them, so apologies if Jeanette has to do some beeping out during the course of it, but let's head up there. Right, we'll fight our way past the tree fern to start with. These bags contain the sporelings for the next generation. I'll just show you what they're like inside. This is the first stage as the spores develop what's called a prothallus, which is a little kidney-shaped plantlet. These develop, hopefully, into larger kidney-shaped things like this, and from these we move to the first fronds appearing on ferns. This particular one is a Polystichum certiferum that I bred called Alfie, named after my eldest grandson. Unfortunately, I'm struggling to propagate this. At the moment, there is only one plant of Alfie. I hope these survive. This is my 4th attempt to get young plants. Then the next stage, they got considerably bigger, and these I will be gradually hardening off to come out, when they will look like these, and these are now waiting for me to pot them on. This particular one is Polystichum transvalensis, which comes from South Africa. Just a quick word on pronunciation. This one everybody gets wrong, if I can get it in focus, and everybody pronounces it as Polystichum, but it should be Polystichum. This is Arachnoides Viliformis, and it gets the name Viliformis because the frond looks rather like a Davilia. And up here in the hanging basket we have a Davilia, and hopefully you can see the similarity of the frond. These are normally or commonly named rabbit's foot ferns or hare's foot ferns because of the somewhat furry rhizome. This one is actually hardy. I've had a small piece out all winter, but I only bought this last year, so I'm keeping a bit inside as well for insurance purposes. One that isn't hardy, unless you're lucky enough to live in the Scilly Isles or somewhere similar, but is often seen as a house plant, is a Splenium bulbipharum. This again is a young one, I only got it last year. But as you can see, hopefully, it produces baby plants on the frond, and these can be pinned down and grown on, and at some point during this year I'll split these up and pot them up separately. Another one, although it's not doing so yet, that produces easy plantlets is Dyopteris bulblepharum from North America. And this produces little buds that drop on the floor in late summer, autumn, and root away, and you get new plants. Although it's looking a bit scruffy at the moment, I'm quite pleased with this plant. This is Coinogram japonica from Japan, which I grew from spores about 4 years ago. Common name is bamboo fern, for fairly obvious reasons. And this one is producing new fronds now. If I go down, hopefully we can find them. Yes, just coming through, you can see the new fronds. Unfortunately, the one next to it, which is Coinogram omiense from China, is not doing so as yet. And the fronds are in rather a bad state. But when they're growing well, they do look stunning with their yellow markings. And next to it, a Japanese version. This one is intermedia, and its varietal name is, if I pull the label out, Yorimusha. I've probably mispronounced that, so apologies to any Japanese who happen to be watching. These bamboo ferns are hardy. Unfortunately, I have to grow them in here because they are a favourite food of slugs and snails, of which my garden has rather too many. But I know a number of growers in Belgium, Holland and Germany, they succeed with them very successfully outside. Sticking with Japan, we come down here, Ethereum otophorum oceanum. Another one that's perfectly hardy, but my garden doesn't like Ethereums, it's too dry for them. So I keep this one in here, and when it clumps up enough that I can split it, I will try some more outside. Another Ethereum, this time a cultivar of our native lady fern, is this one, Ethereum Felix Femina Plumosum Barnes. This is an old Victorian cultivar and one of the best. Again, being a native, entirely hardy, but as I said, my garden is a bit too dry for them. So again, this one I'm keeping in here, and if it produces enough side crowns, I will move some outside. We'll head down a bit, and in the pot there is a young tree fern, Cyathea cooperi. That's about 3 years old. Grew that from spores from my larger one, which I'll show you in a minute. And then down below it is a fern from New Zealand, Microsorum diversifolium, sometimes seen in garden centres as a house plant, and is almost hardy. I've seen photographs of it in Southern Ireland growing superbly, climbing up trees and looking really good. Here I'm trying to get it to climb up this dead tree fern stem. It's just beginning to do so. This unfurling frond here is from a relative of the tree ferns that once people start getting into ferns in a big way, this sets very quickly the top of their wanted list. It's called Lophosaura quadripinata. It grows in Mexico, down in Central South America and down into Chile. Doesn't look particularly spectacular, except when it gets very large. It can be over 12 feet long, the fronds, but the real beauty of it is when we get down to it and we do this and show you the underside. Quite spectacular in my opinion, and nearly every other person's opinion who grows it. This will grow outside, and I have one that's been out for a few years, but it suffered badly this last winter. Move over here to a little miniature tree fern. This is Blechnum gibbum, although a lot of the Blechnums have had a name change, and this is now Oceaniopteryx gibba, but in any garden centre, and it does appear quite often in a garden centre, you'll see it under the name of Blechnum gibbum. It produces little stems which are beautiful deep black against the green. I don't know whether I can show you. A favourite of mine, Gymnocarpium omiense, another Far Eastern one. This is hardy. I had this outside for several years. Unfortunately, the last couple of really hot summers have done for it. Fortunately, I had this bit in here for insurance, and I will split a bit off of this later and try it again outside somewhere else. Another favourite is growing next to it, which is this one. Common name is a carrot fern. This one is called Onychium japonicum from, again, obviously Japan, but there are several other species. And apart from being a very delicate, very beautiful fern, I like this one because if you're really lucky, you can go down on the beach at Hastings and along the coast at Pett, not far from where I live, and you can find fossils of an almost identical fern that is 120 million years old, and you compare the two and they are virtually identical. Now, most people think of ferns, of course, as being green, and they tend to be, but not always. This is another Blechnum, this one from South America, Blechnum occidentale. Climbing up this wicker frame, my first ever attempt at basket weaving, is another Japanese fern, Lygodium japonicum. This is a climbing fern, something that few people realise exist. And again, this is almost hardy. I had this outside for 5 or 6 years. Unfortunately, it only ever grew about 6 inches before the winter came and chopped it back to the ground. So I've moved it in here. It stays evergreen, and as you can see, grows quite a bit bigger. Another unfern-like fern growing next to it, which I did, I believe, send Jeanette a piece of, is this Pyrosia. This is a form of Pyrosia ligua, again from the Far East. The normal ligua is over here. See, just a simple frond. For some reason, this isn't growing as well as the cultivar. This is proving to be hardy. I had a piece out all last winter, perfectly happy. And I don't know, again, the Dutch and Belgian growers have no problem with it in their gardens. This is the trunk of Dicksonia squarosa, a tree fern from New Zealand that grows in bogs. This light little bump on the side is a shoot. Unusual for tree ferns. If the main stem dies, that shoot will then sprout. If the whole of the main stem dies, then there will be shoots from underground will come up. Most tree ferns, if they lose their trunk, then they are dead. But squarosa's very kind, which is just as well for me because I've nearly killed it several times. This is one that needs water and water and water and water, and then you start again and water it some more. But it's already producing its 5th new frond of the year, and this is one that is developing very nicely. And although not as good as the Lophosaura, I find the underside of the fronds on this one are very attractive. Here's a better view of the underside of Dicksonia squarosa. Phlebodium aureum glauca is from the Caribbean and northern South America. Grows naturally on logs and branches, hence growing on here. The aurea is referring to the allegedly golden scales, but if we just move through this Polypodium formosum, they're rather more of a coppery colour than gold, but still very attractive. Past the bluish green Polypodium formosum, and you can see the rhizomes hanging under there, looking for somewhere else to grow onto. Those of you who regularly receive bunches of flowers may well recognise this fern. If it has fern fronds in the bunch, then it's this plant, Remora adiantiformis, commonly known as the leather fern. This grows all around the southern hemisphere and is another one that is almost hardy. I have had it survive outside, but that's all it does. It doesn't grow, it just sits there and does nothing. But in the hanging basket, sitting out in the summer, in the greenhouse in the winter, it does absolutely fine. And this one is going to need to be repotted fairly soon. You can see over here, it's beginning to break out of the side of the basket, and round here, it's done so even more. I mentioned the young Cyathea cooperi earlier. Well, this is the parent plant This I grew from spores about 12 years ago, and it's done rather too well, and it's basically reaching pretty near as big a size as I can accommodate, because the pot is now getting very heavy to lift in and out each winter. This frond is the third one for this year already. I'm going to have to cut a couple of these off as I take it out. Cooperi comes from Australia. Given enough water, it can take quite a bit of sun and it can grow to quite a size. It will reach 40 feet tall with individual fronds that can be 20 feet long. And this is just one of this year's new fronds. And I noticed this morning when I looked at it, don't know if you can make out tiny little pale green dots on the underside there, but they will be the spores for this year, so I can collect some more and sow some more of it. Another pyrosia, this one Pyrosia shirei, again looking very unlike a fern, but living up to its name of felt fern. The underside, and these are last year's spore cases, are very felty to the touch. This is proving quite hardy. I've had it outside for a couple of years, and again, the growers in Northern Europe, they are doing it. Plenty of new fronds just showing through now. So this will be going out and hanging up for the summer in the next week or two. I'll finish with another atypical fern. This is the stag's horn fern, Platyserum bifurcatum. This comes from New Guinea, Java, Northern Australia. It has two types of frond. The stag's horn looking fronds are the fertile fronds. The spores appear on the undersides of these. This one is yet to produce any. And then the sterile fronds are these brown ones behind it. These wrap around 3 branches and 3 trunks. You can just see a new green sterile frond that will develop, wrap round these others and grip onto the board that it's mounted on. These are very good at recycling. In the back of this they collect any fallen leaves, bird droppings, dead flies, anything at all, which form a compost, and they live on that. They also decompose their own old fronds and add that to their food source. There's quite a few different species of Platyserum. Unfortunately, all but this one are tropical, so I can't grow them, but there are some really magnificent specimens around. I hope you found something of interest in this. If you have any questions, I'm very happy to answer any that I can, either through the video, or you can contact me directly by email. My email address is markborder@icloud.com, all lowercase. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. That I found so interesting. I'm learning about ferns. I've learned that I need to say Polystichum instead of Polystichum, so Polystichum. And I don't know how you know all those names. How you remember them is beyond me. But I suppose all those years of experience you will have learned them, I guess. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Mark. You're a very, very lovely friend, and I'm honoured to know you. See you all on Monday, everyone. Take care. Bye.